The premise of this discussion is the well-being and social well-being, or human well-being. We have with us today Sami Jibrakel. He is a PhD student in human resource development at Texas A&M, and he has a commitment to social issues at the individual and society level is truly reflected in his work as a scholar and professional. His roots lie in both the East and the West. His reading of the Nobel laureate Amartya Sen, Douglas North, and Greet Hofstede inform his interpretation of socio-economic development. We hear about these concepts, welfare economics, social well-being, or human well-being oftentimes, but a lot of us do not know what they mean, so where they come from. So let's start by asking, are they the same concepts?
The idea of welfare economics, well-being, social well-being, or human well-being are all tied up to each other. In the literature, they are often used interchangeably. They are transdisciplinary concepts. For instance, in economics, we have this camp called welfare economists, or welfare economics. And in sociology, they use the concept of social welfare. And in psychology, they use the construct of well-being. And the discussion continues.
So what is your understanding of well-being? Can you give us a context of this?
Our present-day understanding of well-being or human well-being is significantly influenced by Western thinking. And that understanding goes as far back as Aristotle, who viewed human well-being as something that is generated by our actions, not our belongings. The idea of well-being has evolved over time. From that Aristotelian notion that well-being is something that is generated by what we do, not what we own, to the medieval metric of the heavenly rewards and punishments determining our well-being, to the Calvinist predetermination, and finally to the scientific aestheticism of the Renaissance, which ended with the emergence of the utilitarian philosophy in the late 18th century.
So then, what is the utilitarian philosophy on well-being?
In one of the most fascinating books published in the late 18th century by Jeremy Bentham, called Introduction to the Principles of Ethics, human behavior is described as something that is motivated by pleasure and pain. And the net effect of that pleasure, for instance, is something we can call utility or well-being.
So that is utility at the individual level. So what is utility at the group or society level?
Utility or well-being at the society level depends on the constellation of actions that people take in that society. It's the aggregate of how people conduct themselves in a given society. And the best way to conduct oneself according to the utilitarian is that which leads to the greatest benefit of the greatest number.
That seems a bit complex. So can you elaborate more?
Indeed, this articulation of the utilitarians is both abstract and complex. Complex in the sense that they look at well-being as both individualistic and egalitarian. In simple words, according to the utilitarians, each person's utility or well-being is counted as equal, and each person gets to determine his or her level of satisfaction in a given society.
Is there any practical relevance then to the utilitarian position on social well-being?
Due to its complex nature, the utilitarian philosophy of well-being remains in the paper only. When you look at it in terms of practical policy action, nobody has come up with a formula where they can plug in numbers to come up with a solution that could be used in practical policy to improve well-being at the society level. In short, the utilitarians have succeeded in answering the ontological question of what is utility or well-being, but they have largely failed to answer the fundamental question of how to bring about utility or well-being to the society.
We will continue the discussion, but we are limited on time for this one. Do you want to say or add anything to our conversation today?
There's a concept that is unique to the utilitarian philosophy, and Jeremy Bentham refers to that. That is the concept of diminishing marginal utility. The concept of diminishing marginal utility is that each additional unit of a good or service, and by extension income, adds a little bit less to your well-being or happiness.
All right, we'll continue this discussion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.